My brother married my ex-girlfriend, Tasha, who had cheated on me. Later, she became pregnant and demanded that I reconcile with them and move on from the past. Initially, I believed that people could change, but I have come to realize that even the most hardened criminals can change, while cheaters remain untrustworthy. My brother learned this lesson the hard way. He insulted me and didn't believe my warnings about Tasha's true nature. It's painful to see someone you care about ignore the truth, especially when it involves your own family. To understand my feelings, it's important to share the full story of Tasha, who is now my brother's wife, and in a way, I can now say ex-wife. When we were together, Tasha, who is now 32, cheated on me with my brother. At that time, I urged my brother not to marry her, clearly seeing that her intentions were not honest. Tasha seemed to be more interested in my brother's money than in him as a person. Unfortunately, he didn't heed my advice, leading to a rift in our relationship, especially after I chose not to attend their wedding. Now that Tasha is pregnant, my brother wants to reconcile, and my mom has encouraged me to give them another chance. Initially, I agreed to try to mend our relationship. However, it quickly became evident that Tasha was still being unfaithful even after giving birth. The baby looked nothing like my brother, which prompted him to take a paternity test. He finally saw the truth unfold before his eyes. Reflecting on the past, I realized that I was somewhat naive during my time with Tasha. I wanted a beautiful girlfriend to show off, especially since I felt like a loser in high school. The validation from being with her meant a great deal to me. I even spent considerable money on a flashy car to impress others. Tasha, however, was incredibly insecure throughout our relationship. She constantly checked my phone and called to see where I was. She even prevented me from talking to other girls because she needed to feel secure. In an effort to reassure her, I introduced Tasha to my close friends and family. But when my friends met her, they immediately warned me that she wasn't good for me. At that time, I thought they were just envious of my relationship and refused to listen. This denial led me to defend her instead of taking their advice seriously. Eventually, I introduced her to my family, including my older brother Noah, who is 35. Noah often acted immaturely, which only added to my worries. I invited Tasha on a family weekend trip, thinking it would be a great opportunity for her to bond with my loved ones. However, things quickly took a turn for the worse. Tasha accused me of looking at another girl in a bikini, even though I wasn't. In a fit of rage, she slapped me and stormed off, leaving me frustrated. After some time had passed, I began to worry and went searching for her. Unfortunately, after a long search, I returned to find Tasha and Noah together in a compromising position, and it was a sight I never wanted to see. The betrayal shattered me. Tasha tried to blame me for what happened, claiming it was my fault because I had supposedly looked at other women. I felt confused and hurt, especially when Noah offered the excuse that he thought Tasha wasn't my type and believed they would be happier together. Enraged, I left the house and later uncovered the truth about Tasha's actions while we were still together. I learned that she had been flirting with multiple guys, going out on luxurious dinners, and using them for shopping, all while being with me. Despite my efforts to warn Noah about Tasha's character, he turned a blind eye. I eventually stopped trying to convince him, because I was still reeling from their betrayal. I knew deep down that Tasha would cheat on him too, just like she had cheated on me. Sadly, I felt that he would eventually understand my pain. Months later, I received an invitation to their wedding, and it shocked me. My brother was marrying someone he barely knew, a woman who was clearly a gold digger, a liar, and a cheater. He had no idea that the woman he was about to marry was a gold digger, a liar, and a cheater. At that moment, I realized I had to step in to stop the wedding. I knew there would be serious consequences for my brother if I didn't act. My main goal was to protect him from her and prevent his heart from getting broken in the future. So, I gathered all the evidence I could find that would show her true nature, evidence that proved she had a history of cheating. When I presented everything to my brother, he looked confused. He told me that Tasha, the woman he planned to marry, had been honest with him. She explained that she just wanted to explore her options and find the perfect man for her. She had told Noah that he was her ideal match, and that was why they were getting married. Everything she said was complete nonsense, but my brother was so blinded by love that he genuinely believed her words. Noah loved to spend money, but this didn't concern us too much since we were doing well financially. He had a good job and also received help from our parents. We didn't have to pay rent, as we lived in the apartments owned by our dad, who was fond of real estate investments. This brought in a good rental income, allowing us to live comfortably. Our lives had been good, and I suspected that Tasha wanted the same lifestyle. I knew she was after Noah's money, and it became clear to me when she insisted that he throw an extravagant wedding celebration, which ended up costing a large amount of my dad's money. What was even more shocking was the guest list. Tasha invited a number of men she had been involved with in the past, and almost a quarter of the attendees had slept with her. The rest were some of her unusual friends and a few relatives of mine. Our family was not happy with the wedding at all. My mom was more concerned about Tasha's happiness, but my dad openly disliked her and stood firmly against the marriage. Tasha's own family didn't attend the wedding either, as they had disowned her for reasons unknown to us. I received an invitation to the wedding, but I chose not to go or participate in my own brother's big day. After I turned down the invitation, my brother called me, begging me to reconsider. He accused me of being jealous and said I couldn't stand to see him happy. That was the last time we spoke for 5 long years. Recently, my mom called to say that Noah wanted to reconcile with me. I told her that he should reach out to me directly and not through her. She said she would encourage him to call me, but pleaded with me to give him a chance. I was hesitant but agreed to try my best. A couple of days later, Noah called me to share some news. Tasha was pregnant, and after 5 years, they were still together. He sounded smug, as if he was rubbing it in my face that I had been wrong about them. He insisted that Tasha turn out to be a loyal wife and urged me to put the past aside so we could reunite to welcome the new baby. I decided to visit them, and they appeared to be a happy family. Noah made a snide comment about me still being single and suggested that I should get a girlfriend. He even thanked me for introducing him to Tasha, as if I had somehow played a role in creating his happy family. The entire interaction infuriated me, and I became determined to prove him wrong about Tasha's fidelity. I was surprised their relationship had lasted so long, so I took it upon myself to dig deeper into Tasha's past. I uncovered quite a bit of information about her actions over the years, none of which shocked me. Tasha had cheated on my brother multiple times. I discovered evidence of her checking into hotels with different men. One man, named John, reached out to me. He showed me texts revealing how she had used him for shopping and outings while Noah was away on business. John didn't know she was married and was shocked to find out. With all the proof I had collected, including screenshots of her messages with various men, I felt I had enough evidence to expose Tasha for who she really was. One day, Tasha called me, claiming it was an emergency and that she was alone at their house since she was pregnant. Feeling a bit worried about her being alone, I went over. She explained that Noah was at work, and then she said she knew I had been asking around about her. In an unexpected twist, she offered to sleep with me if I promised not to tell Noah her secrets. I declined her offer immediately and left their house, feeling uneasy. What happened next was utterly unexpected. Tasha lied to Noah. What happened next truly took everyone by surprise. Tasha, Noah's wife, told him a bold lie. She claimed that I had asked her to sleep with me, and then tried to blackmail her by saying that I would tell Noah she was unfaithful. In reality, I had done no such thing. The truth was that Tasha called me first and actually offered to be with me. I was determined to tell Noah the truth about Tasha's behavior, but he would not believe me. I tried to explain to him that Tasha had manipulated the situation, but he was furious and refused to listen. Despite my efforts to convince him otherwise, Noah was convinced that I was trying to hurt him. I even tried to involve my parents, hoping they could help him see the truth. However, Noah's anger only grew. He felt that I was trying to influence our entire family against Tasha. My mom was particularly upset. She cared deeply about Noah and didn't want him to end up in a bad marriage, especially with a child on the way. My dad, on the other hand, was not very sympathetic. He thought Noah was being foolish for staying with someone who clearly showed signs of dishonesty. I had known Noah to be naive during our childhood, but now it seemed he was making foolish choices. My mom attempted to have a conversation with Noah, trying to explain that Tasha was not a good match for him. Unfortunately, Noah believed that I had somehow turned her against him, leading him to dismiss her concerns, thinking they were based on false evidence. Noah's anger escalated, and when my mom tried to reach out, she eventually gave in by pretending to agree with him about Tasha, hoping it would calm him down. I found myself distancing from Noah and Tasha because it felt pointless to argue with someone who refused to listen. Noah was already upset with me for what he thought was my role in tempting Tasha. A couple of months later, Noah called me in a panic, saying that Tasha was going into labor. My parents were in another state, and their flights had been canceled due to bad weather. I rushed over to support him during this stressful time. The labor was long and difficult, but eventually Tasha gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Initially, I felt happy for them, but as I looked more closely at the baby, a strange feeling washed over me. The baby had features that didn't match either Noah or Tasha. His eyes were distinctly different, resembling those of a child of Asian descent. Although I reminded myself that all babies can look somewhat similar, a nagging voice inside me compelled me to question the situation. Over the next few days I spent with them, the more I looked at the baby, the more I was convinced he could not be Noah's son. It was almost as if a part of me felt victorious, realizing that I had evidence of Tasha's unfaithfulness right before my eyes. I could see the confusion on Noah's face, and he had been acting strangely, showing little emotional connection to the new baby. Eventually, Noah visited me and directly addressed the situation. He admitted that he had a sinking feeling that the baby was not truly his, and that Tasha had indeed cheated on him. He mentioned that although they had used protection, Tasha claimed it had failed. I took the opportunity to present all the evidence I had gathered to him, and that night we went through everything together. For the first time, the harsh reality began to hit him. Tasha had not been loyal. Noah spent the night crying, devastated by the betrayal, while Tasha called him repeatedly, unable to cope with the baby alone. I suggested that Noah should take a paternity test to get to the bottom of the matter. When he eventually got the results, they confirmed his fears. He was not the father. This led to a massive argument between Noah and Tasha. She was clearly on the defensive, unable to deny her wrongdoing. In an attempt to turn the tables, Tasha accused Noah of being untrusting for wanting a paternity test without discussing it with her first. Her outburst was chaotic. She screamed, threw things, and even frightened the baby in the process. Feeling overwhelmed, Noah decided to stay at our parents' house for a few days, taking the baby with him because he was unsure of what to do next. The situation had turned into a painful realization for all involved, marking a significant turning point in his relationship with Tasha. Noah's feelings of mistrust toward Tasha during such a chaotic time were evident. It became clear that he was developing a bond with the baby, which was mirrored by our parents, who also seemed to grow attached. After a while, Noah took the difficult step of sending Tasha the divorce papers. She was not ready to accept this. Initially, she flatly denied any wrongdoing, claiming she hadn't cheated at all. In fact, she accused Noah of fabricating the DNA test results. When he took another test that confirmed he was not the father, Tasha resorted to making ridiculous excuses. She even tried to claim that the baby was conceived through IVF with a sperm donor, but she lacked any evidence to back up her story. As a result, the court granted Noah the divorce on the grounds of adultery, but Tasha was awarded custody of the child. Legally, Noah had no claim to the child, and Tasha also sought maintenance and child support. However, the court ruled that she could not demand child support since the child was not Noah's, and that she was not entitled to any maintenance either. Throughout this chaotic period, Tasha blamed me for the divorce and inundated my phone with messages. She even pleaded with Noah to take her back, expressing that she had nowhere to go with the baby. My parents, demonstrating their kindness and compassion, offered to help her temporarily until she could secure her own accommodation and find employment. Despite my belief that she did not deserve their help, I watched as they extended their support, as they always do in times of need. It remains astonishing to me that Noah was so easily deceived by Tasha. I had warned him against marrying her, but he didn't listen. Instead, he chose to believe Tasha's version of events, thinking I was trying to interfere in their relationship. It is hard not to feel resentful toward my brother for being so gullible. With all that has happened, I am reconsidering my relationship with him. The anger I have over the situation is still present, especially since my ex-girlfriend betrayed me and ended up marrying my brother. I had hoped to prove Noah wrong about Tasha, to show him that she was untrustworthy, and now that the truth has come to light, I feel a sense of satisfaction. There is also a part of me that finds humor in it, imagining Noah's reaction when he realizes how wrong he was. While I know some may judge me for the bitterness I feel, it is difficult to ignore. My brother's actions have deeply hurt me, and as I contemplate whether to cut ties completely or just stay distant, I find myself at a crossroads. In my last post, I shared more about this tangled situation with my brother and Tasha, my ex-girlfriend, who has now become a mother through her infidelity. Now, after the divorce, Tasha was left homeless and was given temporary shelter in one of my parents' flats. They felt it was only humane to help her, especially considering she was a new mother. I can't shake the feeling that she would have easily found someone else to take her in if given the chance. After the divorce, her lawyer suggested that she should find the real father of the baby so that he could take on child support responsibilities. Unfortunately, Tasha knew very little about the circumstances surrounding the baby's conception. Feeling entitled, she asked my mom to care for the baby while she searched for a job. Tasha would drop the child off at my parents' house in the mornings, only to return late in the evenings, or sometimes not at all. My mom ended up taking care of the baby full-time, which did not sit well with my dad. He eventually told her that it was not fair to leave the baby with them all the time. Tasha responded with anger, accusing my parents of being selfish and uncaring. She claimed she needed assistance because finding a job was difficult. In turn, she labeled my parents as inhumane for wanting to set boundaries. Eventually, my mom relented and continued to care for the baby, despite my dad's frustrations. Noah wanted nothing to do with the situation, but I felt compelled to help Tasha find work. However, what I uncovered during my search was beyond shocking. What I discovered was quite shocking. Instead of actively looking for a job, Tasha was spending her days at home with a new boyfriend who had moved in with her. This boyfriend was covering her expenses, and since he worked from home, he insisted that Tasha take their baby away so he could have a quiet environment. Once I learned the truth about her situation, I immediately informed my parents. Their reaction was firm. They refused to take care of the baby and gave Tasha just a week to leave their house and find somewhere else to live. It became clear that her new boyfriend was only with her for the benefit of living rent-free. When Tasha asked him to find a suitable place for them to live, he chose to abandon her and left her behind. Left without support, Tasha found herself moving in with her friend C32F. Meanwhile, I had dedicated my time to searching for a job for Tasha, and I managed to find a position as a cleaner at a daycare center. I specifically chose this role because they offered childcare for her baby while she was at work. Desperate to make a change in her life, Tasha accepted the job. Seeing her working as a cleaner was a satisfying moment for me, as it highlighted the consequences of her decisions. It was almost amusing to think that she believed having someone else's child would go unnoticed. Ultimately, she brought all of this upon herself. I have mixed feelings about Tasha. Part of me thinks she deserves the worst for her actions, but at the same time, I feel sympathy for her baby and for Tasha as a single mother. I still hold out hope that she will change her ways and dedicate herself to raising her child properly. That concludes this chapter of the story. I appreciate everyone who has been engaged and supportive throughout this ordeal. After reflecting on all the comments, I decided that while I wouldn't completely cut ties with Tasha, our relationship would never return to what it once was. Her presence in our lives has significantly affected the bond one had with my brother, who has distanced himself from the family ever since his divorce. I find myself questioning whether I should make an effort to reach out to him or simply leave him alone. In an update regarding my brother's ex, who is also tied to my past, I want to acknowledge the guidance and support I've received. I was unsure of who to talk to, but your comments really helped clarify my thoughts. I took the step to reach out to my brother, and I'm grateful I did. He admitted feeling ashamed for not believing my side of the story. Since the divorce, he has been struggling emotionally, and I'm relieved we didn't cut ties completely. It required a lot for me to bridge the gap because I was still harboring anger from the situation. Trusting a partner is one thing, but blindly believing them, and going against your own family is another matter entirely. I feel like I've taken on the role of the older brother in this scenario. Eventually, I expressed my frustrations and resentment towards him for being involved with Tasha, the woman who cheated on me. He broke many rules of friendship, but apologized sincerely, realizing his mistake in trusting someone like Tasha. He also expressed regret for having teased me about being single during that time. Many of his past actions had slipped my mind, but he had often acted poorly towards me since childhood, and things got worse after he married Tasha. As for Tasha, I initially thought she had found her footing, but it turned out she struggled as a cleaner. Her experience led to questionable decisions, as she ended up in a relationship with the daycare manager, a man in his late 40s. She was promoted to a helper, but her lack of knowledge in child care showed. Complaints from staff about her treatment of the kids began to pile up, but the manager ignored them. Eventually, parents also complained, and the daycare had no choice but to let her go. Despite her pleas to keep her job, it was detrimental to the daycare's reputation, leading the manager to end their relationship as well. Once again, Tasha found herself without a job and in a desperate situation. After an extensive search, Tasha managed to find the baby's father, Kyle. He was a wealthy, married man of Asian descent, and like Tasha, he had a history of infidelity. His wife, Rita, who was 37, likely faced immense heartbreak upon discovering her husband's betrayal. This new chapter for Tasha was just as complicated as her previous ones, and the cycle of challenges seemed far from over. Tasha unexpectedly arrived at their doorstep, causing a stir when Kyle flatly denied any connection to both her and the baby she claimed was his. In a fit of frustration, she called the police and sought legal assistance, prompting a series of events that would alter their lives dramatically. Kyle was subsequently required to undergo a paternity test. When the results confirmed that he was indeed the father of the child, it set off a chain reaction of decisions and actions. Rita, who had long struggled with her inability to conceive, saw this as an opportunity. She decided they should pursue custody of the child, believing it could fill the void in their lives. They entered a heated battle in court, but it soon became clear that Kyle wasn't truly invested in raising the baby. As a result, they lost the custody case. Tasha, however, had her own motives. She wanted the baby primarily to secure child support, envisioning it as a source of financial support for herself. Ultimately, the court ordered Kyle to pay Tasha a substantial amount in monthly child support, ensuring she would have the means to provide for the child while she focused on her own needs. Meanwhile, Tasha relied on daycare services to look after the baby during the day as she sought out new relationships, often prioritizing her own desires over her responsibilities as a mother. Observing her behavior, it became increasingly apparent that Tasha was worse than anyone had anticipated. It raised concerns about her future, as she wouldn't remain young and attractive forever. It seemed clear that she needed to find a stable job to avoid being financially dependent on anyone. With her current lifestyle, any sensible man would think twice before entering into a relationship with her. She moved between partners, seemingly without regard for the consequences of her actions, which only intensified fears that she might one day face serious trouble. The thoughts of the innocent child she left behind were troubling. It was heartbreaking to consider the kind of upbringing the baby was facing as Tasha continued down this reckless path. News about Tasha spread rapidly throughout their small town, with whispers about her growing reputation for poor choices. Her gold-digging tendencies did not go unnoticed, and it quickly became evident that good men would shy away from her as they learned about her past. With associations growing ever more questionable, it became increasingly important that the child not be affected by such negative influences. Updates on Tasha's situation continued to emerge, and they became more alarming than imagined. As anticipated, Tasha's choice of companions had taken a turn for the worse. Many of them were not only bad influences, but also had links to criminal activities, including drug dealing. One night, while with one of these men, Tasha overdosed, leaving her unconscious for approximately 20 hours. During this time, her baby managed to escape the home and was found wandering the streets. Fortunately, a neighbor spotted the child before any serious harm occurred and called for help. When authorities arrived, they found Tasha unresponsive and quickly took action. The Child Protection Services intervened, and Tasha was placed into rehab for her drug issues. They discovered that the baby had been exposed to harmful substances, which could have long-lasting effects on his health, particularly impacting his lungs at such a young age. Noah, feeling a sense of compassion for the child, made an effort to visit him, as many in the family were concerned for his well-being. As the situation unfolded, Tasha's baby's father was located and granted custody after thorough assessments confirmed he could provide a stable environment. Meanwhile, Rita grew attached to the child and felt a strong desire to care for him. Her nurturing nature as a school teacher motivated her even further, and she welcomed the boy into her home as if he were her own. In a surprising turn of events, Rita decided to file for divorce from Kyle. She had amassed ample evidence of his infidelity through the circumstances surrounding the child, leading to a significant alimony settlement. Rita's decision to divorce was a relief, as she deserved to be free from the betrayal that had impacted her life so deeply. Not only did she reclaim her independence, but she also legally adopted the child, raising him alone and providing him with the love and care that every child deserves. Rita's life seemed to take a brighter path, filled with purpose as she embraced her role as a single mother. She even made arrangements for her mother to visit the baby, understanding the emotional bond that had formed. On the other hand, Tasha's overdose resulted in a lengthy hospital stay. Had she ingested more drugs that day or been found any later, the outcome could have been far worse. The child's struggles were evident, as he appeared malnourished and weak when taken from the chaotic environment in which he had been living. It became clear that the baby was in desperate need of care, love, and stability, something that was finally being provided by Rita. He was almost hit by a car, and during that time, he had been crying a lot. If the child had not managed to open the door just in time, it could have been too late for them. Tasha faced serious consequences for her actions. She had to go to rehab for 6 months and had to pay a huge fine. If she hadn't paid the fine, she would have had to go to jail as well. My brother decided to visit her out of pity, thinking she would be upset about losing her child. However, it turned out that she didn't really care about that. What upset her the most was losing financial support from Kyle. In fact, she felt relieved that she no longer had to take care of the baby. After completing her rehab, Tasha rushed to Rita's house. To her surprise, she discovered that Rita had divorced Kyle. Seeing an opportunity, Tasha asked Rita for money, threatening her by saying she would take the baby away if she didn't get it. Unbeknownst to Tasha, Rita had already legally adopted the child. Rita took immediate action by calling the police on Tasha for her threatening behavior. She also put a restraining order against her, warning Tasha that if she ever tried to see the child again, she would face jail time because she had previously put the baby in danger. As I reflect on all these events, I can't help but think about Tasha's life before all of this chaos. She had a good life with Noah, and it makes me wonder how different things could have been if she had chosen to change her ways and remain faithful to him. There really was no reason for her to cheat. It seemed like she craved attention from multiple guys all at once, despite Noah doing his best to give her the love and attention that she needed. In the end, Tasha ruined her own life through her choices, and now she is the one suffering the most. Sadly, her actions also impacted her child and Noah. I can't help but wish she had at least been responsible enough to use protection, so that she wouldn't have put the baby's life in jeopardy. It is somewhat fortunate that my brother discovered Tasha's unfaithfulness because of the baby, which brought everything to light. Ultimately, things turned out okay. Noah learned the truth, Rita became a mother, and Tasha faced the consequences of her actions.